In this video on Fusion 360, I'm going to show you how to do a very basic program using your design that you've made to put two holes in this and create a CNC program with it. So a lot of this is going to apply to any program that you do, but we're just going to start really simple. All I want to do on this video is to spot drill and drill two holes. So the first thing I'm going to do is once I've made my design and I save it, I'm going to click up here on design and then scroll down to where it says manufacture. That's where we create our CNC program. Looks very similar, but is some differences up top here as far as the icons and what you can do with it. So we're in the manufacturing, we're doing milling, so we're going to make sure we're clicked on milling. All right. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a setup for this. So right now we have no idea where, what the setup is. We need to know how big the stock is, which corner of this we want to use for our datum, and some other information too. So the first we'll do where it says setup, we're going to click on that up here on the top left. Click on setup and then new setup. And so then we get this dialog box here that comes up with all kinds of information. There are three different tabs on here. The first one is asking us to place the work coordinate system somewhere. That's, where our X0, Y0, Z0 is going to come from. The second one is our stock. We can tell it how big our stock is. If you click on mode, you'll see there's some options. We're going to start with fixed size box. We're going to tell it exactly how big the stock is. All right. So you can see where the X, the Y, and Z are lined up over here in the middle. We want to tell it how long our X stock is going to be. I want it to be exactly 2 inches long, which is fine, and 1 inch wide. But the height, the Z height, is too much. I'm just going to change that to 0.25. And that's good enough. All right, I'm going to go back to setup. My work coordinate system automatically jumps to the middle, but I'm going to use the stock box point. That just says somewhere, one of these points you see on the outside. I'm going to click on this point in the upper left, and it transfers my axis, my orientation, everything flips to this corner. So the x-axis plus is going to the right, y-axis is going the correct direction, and z is going up. So that's pretty much like where you're going to pick up your x0, y0. All right, that's good. That's good. Now, post-process, you don't really have to do anything here, but I like to give it my program number at the beginning, and I'm just going to pick a number. Doesn't matter what it is. You don't put the O in here. Just one thing that's really important. And you can put comments like drill 2 holes through. All right, and I happen to know that these are 0.201 diameter. All right. That's it. Okay, that's the setup information is all good. We've got some around this. We've got basically the stock, so it knows that there's something to be drilled out here. So the next thing we got to do is we're going to do some drilling operations. So if you go over about halfway, you see drilling. We'll click on that, down arrow, then click on drill. First, so another one of these pops up, these little boxes, and it's got 4 different tabs on it. The first one's all about the tool. So the first thing we need to do is select the cutting tool. So I'm going to click on that select button, and this whole thing comes up. All right, so what you want to do is this should be empty. Click on this plus sign. This is to add a tool. Right? It adds a new tool, and you choose which type you want. And I'm going to look through all these different options, and I want to use a spot drill. Now we got to fill out some information. I'll say 0.250 spot drill. Right, that's all I'm going to put on this page. 0.250 spot drill in the description. So that was under general. If I click to where it says cutter, I'm going to describe how big this cutter is. Number of flutes, that's cutting edges, is 2. The diameter is 0.250. And that's really all I have to change. So that's good. I'm not worried about the shaft, the holder, but the cutting data is important. How fast we're going to spin this. I'm going to spin this at 2,000 RPM. I'm going to feed it at 10 inches a minute. So spindle speed 2,000, cutting feed rate 10. And that's all you have to change. It should be coolant, should say flood next to it. That puts the coolant automatically. And then post processor is just the tool number that you want. Like if you want to change this to tool 2 or 3 or 8, you can do that. But I'm going to leave it there, tool 1, and say accept. And then select down the bottom here. So now we've chosen that tool. Now we got to tell it to cut these holes. So that's the second tab, geometry. Hole faces, I'm going to click inside each hole. And that's it. My geometry is selected. It's going too deep, so we're going to fix that. On the next tab, which is the heights. You've got all these clearance heights, retract, feed, top, but the only one we have to worry about is the one that says bottom height. So where it says from, that's where we're starting from. It says we're starting from the whole bottom for the bottom height. Well, we really don't want to do that. We want to start from the top of the part and just put a negative value in here of, say, negative 0.060. And you can see that that's cutting down into this. So it's spot drilling in. The last is the type of drilling we want to do. This is a standard G81 drill, wrap it out. We're just going to say okay to that. And that's it. We just spot drilled them. So the next thing we're going to do is now we got to go drill a hole through. So we're going to click on drill again. It's a new drilling operation. So we're going to click on drill. So it automatically comes up with the same tool on there. We don't want to do that same tool. So we're going to click on select and add another tool. It's going to be under hole making, drill. And this is going to be a 0.201 drill. That's all we got to put in there. Description, 0.201 drill. Change the cutter, number of flutes 2, diameter 0.201. That's it. Skip those two. Cutting data. I'll spin this at 2,500 RPM. So spindle speed 2,500. Feed rate 10 inches a minute. Post processor, it automatically comes up with tool 2, so we're all set. We can accept that. And then down here, select it. So again, next tab, geometry. We have to select the holes, these 2 holes. And this time, for heights, the bottom height starts from the bottom of the hole. Makes sense. I'm going to put this sideways so you can see it, what the depth looks like right now. The only problem is the point's not going through yet. But down the bottom, it says, it's got this little box you can check that says drill tip through bottom. Now click on that box so you know that that just popped through the full diameter. Still like to go a little bit more than that. So the breakthrough depth, I'll go with 0.030. So it comes through a little bit further. And okay, and I'm done. Now over here, I'm going to click on setup 1. And up the top, I'm going to click on simulate so we can see what this looks like. This is my speed here. You want to be careful you don't have this going too fast because it'll go by in an instant. I slow it down a little bit sometimes, and I click the play button in the bottom here. And now we can see that 2 spot drills and then the 2 drills. Pretty straightforward. Close that. I'm going to save it. I always want to save my work. And now we can just make the program. Click on post process right up near simulate. Post process is what generates the CNC code itself. So this has already got my program number in here because I put that in my setup. It also has a comment, which I put in my setup. Some things to look for on here. Let's see. Writing the tool list is a good thing. to have that'll put that in the program for you. Block number only on tool change. That's so you don't have a bunch of line numbers in there. Use sequence numbers checked. Um, do not put on fast tool change. That will just throw out extra codes for you. Home position center checked. Optional stop. I always check that off. Safe retracts. We're using a G53. When not preloading the tool, make sure that's not checked off. Separate words with a space. That's good. So it gives you some room to look at what's in the code. This is an important one. Use G0. Make sure that that's checked. Otherwise, you won't have any rapid moves. Okay, then hit post. Post is creating the program. All right, and it just said you successfully made that. So now I'm going to go to my computer, and I have that go into documents. And if I double click on that, that's my NC file. And that's something I can put on my USB drive, load that into the machine, and the code's good to go. So if you notice this, it's got a G81 cycle for tool 1, which is spot drill, 250 spot drill. Then next one, tool 2, it does another G81 cycle for the drilling through. And that's a very, very basic program using Fusion 360.